of interest, hopefully. I think everybody's answers mostly got it right in most aspects. You know, we are gonna go through the case relatively quickly. Please feel free to raise your hand whenever you want to, you know, to make a comment, ask a question. Feel free to interrupt. Throughout this presentation and this chat today, we might have a couple, 2 or 3 polls, okay, to see where people stand before giving an answer and see how you guys are doing. Okay, so this was the case for today. The first part of the scenario is simple enough. We start with a boat blue, which is a stern give. It's keep clear, clear astern, sorry, therefore it's keep clear boat under rule 12. Throughout the scenario, we'll have to keep in mind 2 definitions. The one for room, which is the space a boat needs in the existing conditions, including space to comply with her obligations under the rules of Part 2 and Rule 31, while maneuvering promptly in a seaman-like way. And keep clear. A boat is keeping clear of a right-of-way boat if the right-of-way boat can sail her course with no need to take avoiding action, and when the boats are overlapped, if the right-of-way boat can also change course in both directions without immediately making contact. I'm sure you've all spotted that these 2 are important today as the boats get closer together. So at position 2, no change in terms of the rights and responsibilities and obligations of each boat. Position 2, there's still no overlap. I hope that you can give me 1 second, mouse tab spotlight. I hope you can see that there's still a little bit of distance before the boats get overlapped. Now at position 3, the overlap begins, and it begins through the actions of yellow, which will now become the windward boat. So blue becomes right of way as she gains an overlap from clear astern to leeward of it, and the keep clear boat is yellow. Now there's a limitation for blue in relation to Rule 17. This overlap switches on Rule 17, but Rule 17 doesn't begin to apply, or the boats don't have a proper course until after the starting signal, and if he alters course 16.1. Now let me see. So here comes the first poll. I want to ask what I think is a very important question at this point. Hopefully you can see it there in your screens. Gordon and Chris probably won't see it, so feel free to answer that question. Should Rule 15 influence the actions of Blue Horizon, the boat to leeward that just gained an overlap? Okay, a couple of people saying yes, one saying no. Come on, quickly. You've answered one way or another in the case, in the answers you sent, most of you. So, you know.
Rule 15 being the rule about acquiring right of way. If you're not so up on your.
Well, that's why I'm saving that for now. Give me a sense, but yeah. Okay, we'll leave it like that. So here you have the results. There's a few people that say Rule 15 may influence the actions of Blue Horizon. Now, Rule 15 is acquiring right of way, and when a boat acquires right of way, she shall initially give the other boat room to keep clear. Now, if we stop reading there, then yes, blue gains an overlap, it gains to leeward, therefore becomes right-of-way boat, and it should initially give room for yellow to keep clear. However, because the overlap is acquired through the actions of yellow, of the windward boat, unless he acquires right of way because of the other boat's actions, which is our case, then Rule 15 does not apply, or Rule 15, the second part of Rule 15 applies, and she does not have to give room for yellow to keep clear. Is that understood? Any queries on it? So for those that answer yes, it should influence, not in the context of acquiring right of way. It acquires right of way through the actions of yellow, who bears away, establishing the overlap, creating the overlap. Okay? Now, sorry. So the next part is at position 4, both boats have gotten sufficiently close, and the question is yellow at that point keeping clear of blue? No, yes?
No.
No.
So what do we have to use?
Oh.
Let's try and see, sorry. Can you all see a little poll in there? Is it clear at position 4 that yellow peril is not keeping clear? And how do we measure that? How do we look at how a boat is keeping or not keeping clear? If we go back to the definition of keeping clear, and we know that when boats are overlapped, which is our case at position 4, if the right-of-way boat can also change course in both directions without immediately making contact. So, do we think that at position 4, blue can change course in both directions without immediately making contact? Some people say no. It's not clear to me. It can move a little bit, but it will depend on the conditions. Okay. If we have a lot of wind and a lot of sea, probably there'll be immediate contact. If there's light conditions, there might not be. Okay. So we just keep going. That was another point to focus because it leads on to what happens next. And at position 5, there is contact. Now, in this case, E4 had thought at that point, and that's the way I wrote it, that yellow could no longer keep clear because the second sea loft, there would be contact between the stern port quarter of yellow and the starboard side of blue. Then 4 needs to avoid contact or try to avoid contact. And the key question in that is it reasonably possible for blue to bear away a little bit and making enough room so yellow can avoid contact and blue contact can be avoided. Knowing that the right-of-way boat needs not to act to avoid contact until it's clear that the other boat is not keeping clear or giving room or mark room. So in our case, I'd say they are sufficiently close for 35 footers. Okay. And then the second part that some of you missed, that the sea shall be exonerated if she breaks this rule and contact does not cause damage of injury. So here's the question now. Was there damage? How many people think there was damage? We just to remind you, one of the boats said there were scuff marks on the sides of the boats, nothing that could not be cleaned, and scrubbed off with a good rub. No damage. Some of you in your answers spotted correctly that there is an interpretation for a case trying to put some interpretation around the term damage. And the answer is no. It's not possible to define damage comprehensively, but harm impairing the value of usefulness of something. This definition suggests questions to consider. Was the current market value of any part of the boat or the boat as a whole diminished? With a scuff mark, there is no permanent damage and it can just be cleaned or rubbed out. Our answer should be no. Okay, and in that context, therefore, if we go back one more, we know that our blue boat should be exonerated for breaking Rule 14. Okay, sorry, let's go back. Now, moving on. There's an interesting question that a few of you raised about Rule 17 and whether it was in play or not. So bringing that incident forward, if I show you this image, okay, and you got the question, boat blue, the light blue boat breaking Rule 17, yes, no, or it depends. Where do people feel we are at? Depends. Okay, so everybody's clear that it's not breaking, you know, there's no definite yeses to a breach of a rule. Correctly so, because it really depends. So the answer is no, or it depends. It really depends on what happens next. Proper course only activates when the starting signal, after the starting signal. And at that point, if blue bears away towards a proper course or towards a close hold course, that's her proper course at that time is to bear away. So as long as she complies with that, she's safe. She's complying with the rule, with Rule 17. Does that make sense? Okay. So we move on. There was also, let's explore this issue around Rule 15 a little bit more. Okay. There is a discrepancy on the language around Rule 15. If we go back to what Rule 15 said, okay, when a boat acquires right of way, she shall initially give the other boat room to keep clear, unless she acquires right of way because of the other boat's actions. Now, there's no case in the casebook that clearly interprets the other boat's actions, but we have some guidance about, you know, how it's handled. So match racers will use the call before, and they will explore Rule 15 in saying that if, at least in part, the actions of the other boat contribute to the establishing to the other boat, in our case yellow, in any way contribute to yellow getting a right-of-way situation, then Rule 15, the second part of Rule 15 applies, and she does not have to give blue initially room to keep clear. The team racers have it slightly different. So please note that the match racers have, therefore the second part of Rule 15 applies, so she doesn't have to give marker. And the team racers say it slightly different. You know, they will actually say Rule 15 doesn't apply. Now, it's a little bit of language, but you have to look at how different parts of the documentation that we have to our disposal, especially when there's no case for Rule 15, treat the rule. So open your mics. Who does Rule 15 apply, or doesn't apply, or the second part of Rule 15 applies? Is there any particular view? Okay. At least
if I could express an opinion, my reading is that when the windward boat bears away, that means that the overlap is established earlier than if she had not borne away. So at that point, if I can get back, if you can go back to the scenario, well, if you could do that for
me. Yeah. Give me a second. There you go.
At position 3, if yellow had not borne away, she would still be ahead.
Yes, that's the thing.
So
sorry.
At position 3, the overlap is created by yellow's action, and in the match racing call, it's the same thing. If the windward boat had not borne away, so the first overlap, which is the one that transfers right of way, is actually, in this particular case, is for me clearly due to the actions of the windward boat.
Okay.
Okay, no, that's how I would read it, and
if we look at Emmet's comments about parley actions, I hope Emmet, whether this match call again will illuminate in any way, at least in part, will make you change your mind about how 15 has been. Sorry, how the right of way has been transferred, and therefore yellow does not have to initially give room to blue to keep clear. Sorry, Chris, you pointed out.
Could I just add that if yellow hadn't borne away, there wouldn't have been an issue anyway.
Yeah.
It was her closing the gap that created the issue. So.
Yeah, that's fine. So Chris suggests that I explained what's the difference between a case and a call. The casebook is authoritative for all of world sailing, and the call books for team racing and match racing are only prescriptive for those disciplines. However, when there's no case available to us, we often look at the call books to get a sense of how we might be able to interpret in a scenario going forward. Okay. Any other comment in the chat? Second part applies. Fine.
And on the question of damage, we can. World Sailing has always been very reticent to say anything very clear about damage for all sorts of reasons. There is an interesting RYA case, which once again is not authoritative, but as they say, it is persuasive, which says that damage includes something that a prudent owner would repair promptly, which does help us go a little bit further on when we're looking at deciding whether there's been damage or not.
And then you need to get into the definition of repair.
Exactly. Yes, but it goes a little bit further than the.
There's other guidance on damage, but it's mostly for the difference between serious and physical damage, which does not apply in the context of Rule 14. So if we want to see an example of Rule 15 in action, whether it applies or not, I think I have here a little video that I will not play, but I will get you to the situation. At this point we have, can you see the screen? Yeah? Okay. At this point, white is windward give over blue, and it's keeping clear. She sharply bears away, still windward give, keeping clear. Now, if blue had stayed there, that's fine, but blue also bears away. So now she's doing something, and at this point, white is gonna start to love to create that overlap. So please note that while white is now holding, blue has continued to bear away and continues to do so. Now the overlap has established. How many people, and I don't have a poll for this, but if you want, I can do one. No, I cannot put a new one. Let's see, in the context of this poll, how many people think that the white vote, that Rule 15 applies to this scenario, and how many people think it doesn't? And the point I'm trying to prove is that there is still doubt. So we are half and half, 3 and 3, 50-50. Even though we looked at something that says yellow cursor, at least in part, through the actions of the other vote, at least in part. And if we hang on to that one, if blue here had done nothing, like in other words, continue straight and not bear away, that overlap would have not happened this way. It would have been different. So if I may ask Chris and Gordon to say, for them, does 15 apply to this case, yes or no? What do you think?
Gordon, you want to go first? Or I can go first. Yeah, I think it does.
Sorry?
I think it does.
It does.
Because for me, the important question is, at what point does the blue boat have to start doing anything to keep clear? So at what point does she become obligated to start? And it's only going to be once, because right before this moment, blue would have been clear ahead. So blue would have been right of way.
Mm-hmm. Can you run the thing back a few seconds, please?
Yep. So the question that I have is, I agree with you. She doesn't have to anticipate anything.
Yeah, so that's the point.
But the creation of the overlap.
If you look, stop. Okay, that overlap there, the overlap is, go back a couple of clicks. You could.
Sorry. Couple of clicks.
Yeah, so we're agreed there that blue is clear ahead.
Agree. But
Okay.
she's bearing away.
Yeah, clear ahead.
Bearing away.
Yeah, go on.
Bearing away hard.
Clear
bearing
ahead.
Away hard. Overlap.
Clear, yeah, and there it is blue that created the overlap. For me.
As you can see, here we have, where is Yuso? Yuso is there. Yuso, care to comment?
Yeah, well, hello. For me, I kind of agree with Gordon that when the blue is bearing away, it's the blue is creating the overlap. So for me, it's more or less the same situation as before, as in the case that we were discussing.
Thank you very much. The point here is that sometimes there's disagreement. I've been having this argument over this very same incident with somebody else that is not in this room at the moment, you know, so that's fine. Look, that's pretty much where we are at. I have no other comments. I open the floor for any questions, any issues, and then I'll show you the leaderboard.
I think if you keep playing that video, right, doesn't white laugh? I think I gave him this video.
Well, so halls, and now laughs.
Right. Okay. I remember.
So let's play. So let's play fully, and let's see who takes a penalty turn, a voluntary penalty turn.
So can you play that whole thing again?
Yeah, of course. Click.
Yeah, I think I still stick with my original answer, but
That's perfectly fine. So the calls in team racing do talk, which is slightly different to match. They do talk about giving up right away, or which is a very strong term, whilst match racing uses a more of a grading in this, in at least in part.
Go back to the team racing call. Sorry.
Okay, come in, yeah. It's a slightly different
It's-
scenario, but you know. Simple. Okay. Very good. So if there's no questions, nothing else, we'll just second part apply. Let's just have a look at the leaderboard at the moment. The pro is on top, but consistent user. Lorna and Daniel are close behind, and Hal as well next. Okay. I think we'll be posting the. I'm not sure, Sarah Louise, when does the answer go up online? It'll be tomorrow.
It'll be either this evening or first thing tomorrow morning. She has it ready to go, but I don't know if she got it done this evening or not. So it'll either be this evening or tomorrow morning, first thing.
Very good.
Does anybody want to ask anything about that?
Yes, could I just ask a question about the leaderboard? It is very informative. So really what you are looking for is every single rule that might apply to the snenario before, during, and after the actual incident that we're looking at.
Not so much after. Well, sorry, some of them after. I've given points to the ones that consider, or at least half a point, those that brought in Rule 17.
Yeah, okay.
Although it did not have a real impact in the scenario, but at least the recognition that it has been identified. But yeah, the key aspect of these were the 12, 11, 15, and 14, especially the issue around damage.
Yes, super.
And the two definitions.
Yep, thank you very much indeed. It's absolutely wonderful. Keep it up. Looking forward to the next one.
Okay.
Can I just make the point that this is typically one of those incidents which shows that when we are dealing with this in a protest, that we don't only treat one rule. Over and over again, we have to look at the rules that apply change during the discussion and in the decision, which means that we are very often it becomes far more complicated than people think it will be from the outset, because the rules change so quickly, and especially in a situation like this at the start, as you can see, it's we might end up having multiple rules.
So if nobody wants to ask anything, I will take the opportunity to advertise our umpire course that's this weekend. You might have seen ours advertised. So Chema and I are running a online local umpire course. So we would have obviously run this type of thing in a classroom and with going on the water, but obviously that's not possible at the minute. So we're going to try doing this by this platform. So if you have seen that, we'd encourage you to sign up. I can put a link to it in the chat window. Maybe, yeah, do it now. Or I'm sure Sarah Louise added to her mailing list.
Yeah, I'll add it to the information for tomorrow's challenge.
Yeah, so it's only €1 to join. I think because the website wouldn't allow us to set it at 0.
Yeah.
But, so that will hopefully be, and it's only the morning on Saturday, so it's 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and we'll try and basically cover. So this is more. It's not really a rules course. It's more about how umpiring works, and we'll talk a bit about how umpires actually make their decisions, how they position themselves on the water, that sort of thing. So not go too much into the rules. So that's unless you want to ask me anything about that. I think we're good.
I just ask one wee quick question. Sorry, I missed the start of the call here, but just
No
quickly,
problem.
who was in the wrong?
Sorry?
Just quickly, what was the right answer to the quiz itself? I missed the start of the call. Sorry.
The right answer is yellow breaks rule 11 and 14 and should be disqualified.
Okay.
And blue breaks rule 14 but is exonerated under rule 14b, which says if there's no damage or injury, he shall be exonerated.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Someone just asked what level of knowledge is required to take part in that course. Really none at all, so it'll be very basic. We won't really assume you know anything about umpiring. If you know a bit about team racing, that may be helpful, but not required at all. So that's it'll be really very beginner. And the kind of format will be just like this, and we'll probably use a lot more videos and stuff. But yeah, we won't assume any knowledge. Okay.
Well, thank you very much.